Chun-Li and Vega. There's only one reason these two are going to be together, in my opinion, is if they're either filming or um, talking about filming the particular scene that these two have. Like, if you guys don't know, Vega tried to R word Chun Li. Right, that's the whole lore on that, and Chun Li beat the shit out of Vega. And that's no spoilers. That's what's known. Um, in the Street Fighter lore. But yeah, this is a picture of actor called Orville. Let me check real quick. Orville Peck, and he's a singer, um, and he's famous for that. So he's gonna be playing Vega, and the actor that's gonna be playing Chun Li is named Celine or Kalina Leanne or Selena Leanne. I don't know. And so yeah, these are the actors, and I think this is probably a first look at the upcoming uh, Street Fighter movie, which is cool. It's pretty cool to see that they're showing some progress in this movie, and but I want to talk about what we might be having coming up in the future when it comes to this movie, because something that I want to talk about is um, the director, right? And I want to talk about the history of the director. The director's name is um, his name is Kitao Sakurai. We're just gonna call him Sakurai because the first name I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. To be honest, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Sakurai correctly. Um, yeah, but you know, they haven't announced a time when it's gonna be released, or if they're already working on it, or if they have a script, if anything. They haven't said anything. But the way the actors are acting, like for example, the picture I just showed you, the fact that Andrew Schultz, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, the comedian Andrew Schultz, he's talking about it openly, like he doesn't even care about anything, that because the thing is, like, if it was like a mystery thriller or something like that, I'm pretty sure everybody would keep their mouth shut. Or even if it was something connected to comic books or something like that. But Street Fighter is a very relaxed um, deal, because everybody knows what Street Fighter is. Everybody knows the outcome, and they know that it's not that complicated, and there's not like for example, I already know that Vega is going to try to you know R word Chun Li, and Chun Li is gonna beat the shit out of Vega. And I know that that's why they're together, and I know that that's why they're probably working on that scene or talking about working on that scene, or maybe this is before they even get dressed up, for the scene. What I'm talking about. So, we know this because we know the lore. If you like Street Fighter and you're a fan of Street Fighter, you know what's going on here. Um, but you know, I want to talk about the direction that they're gonna take with this movie, because looking at the directors, and like I said, looking at the relaxed nature of the situation and the people that are involved, the people that they're casting, I could tell where the direction is gonna go. Now let's talk about let's see here, the director, Sakurai, um, and why they picked this guy. Now this guy is more known for things like funny things, comedic things, things that make you laugh and stuff like that. But he also did the live action uh, series for Twisted Metal, and Twisted Metal is a game. It's kind of like I believe it's like a post-apocalyptic world where you race cars and kind of like Death Race or something like that. I never played it, so I could tell you very little about it, but I have seen like short clips of the game and people talking about it. It's basically you're just racing um, each other with these cars that have weapons and shit like that. From what I could tell, so he made a live action for that. So he's very successful, I think, or he's experienced in this area, and he's also experienced with comedy. Okay, and the one thing that I also noticed is that the devs for Street Fighter, which is Nakayama, right? Nakayama-san and Matsumoto. So these guys, these are the main devs. These are the guys that you always see, talking about Street Fighter, the gameplay and the lore and stuff like that. Nakayama-san is the one that's mostly connected with the lore. And I believe he's the main one that wants a movie, for Street Fighter. And he's the one that's, in my opinion, he's the one that's choosing these directors. And what I've noticed is that, number one, they really want this movie to come out. And they want it to come out soon. Sooner rather than later. I'm thinking they want it to come out next year, probably at the middle or the end of next year. And the reason is because they saw that the other directors weren't going to be able to make it. And the other director is, they're the brothers Danny and Mitch Filipao, something like that. I don't know their last name is kind of weird. I think they're French or something like that. But my point is, they couldn't do it because they were making horror films, but the reason, in my opinion, that the Street Fighter devs wanted them is because they saw what they did in YouTube, because they started off as YouTubers. Those two guys, the Filipao brothers. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, but they started in YouTube, and they made a video kind of parodying Street Fighter, and they were making fun of it. It was a funny video, but the action was really good, and the effects were really good. And most of their early career in YouTube was very much a comedy sketch type of deal going on. And the point I'm trying to make here is that the Street Fighter devs, they like the funny stuff. They're going for the funny stuff. And even though these directors, they're now a lot more serious, and they're still doing the practical effects, which I like that. I've always liked practical effects better than CGI, especially when it comes to action and even for horror. But these guys now, they're a lot more serious. They're not doing the funny business anymore. And in fact, I believe that since they're a lot more serious, they might not want to do something like Street Fighter, and or something that's funny like that, which is sad, because I think they would have been a perfect match. But my point is this: the Street Fighter devs, they don't want to take this too seriously. They want something that's lighthearted, funny, and that's going to get the point across that this is Street Fighter. Something that's going to be able to translate or be believable, at least for the real world, slightly. And that's what they're going for. And I know that's because since they couldn't get these guys, they settled for Sakurai, which is pretty much another comedy guy, that knows how to probably do gore and knows how to do, live action stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that we're not gonna get like a deep cut Street Fighter. You're not gonna get like um the origins of Ryu, and working on the Setsu, Hado and talking to Geki and Goki and Retsu and all of these things. You're not gonna get that. You're gonna get something a lot more relaxed, and I totally understand it, because if we're gonna go from the beginning, meaning if we're gonna start with Street Fighter Alpha, we're not even gonna get a tournament, because Street Fighter Alpha is before the first tournament. You get what I'm saying? So, and nobody's gonna really want to see that. I mean, not really, because it's not a tournament. It's gonna be more complicated. It's gonna be more hard to film something like that. And I'm gonna explain why here in a second, because Street Fighter Alpha, it's not a tournament. Tournaments are easy to film. They're easy to talk about. They're easy to get done with the idea of a tournament, right? And in Street Fighter Alpha, which is the beginning, Ryu was just going around meeting the best fighters in the world, learning from them, and sharpening his tools for the upcoming tournament, which is the first tournament. And the thing about the first tournament is that you don't even get the Road Warriors or the World Warriors in that tournament. You get these guys, right? Retsu, Geki, Joe, Mike, Lee, Gen, Birdie, Ego, Idon, Sagat, and Ken. Okay, these are the guys you get. Now, from these Street Fighters right here, most people don't know these guys. You and me, we probably know these guys because we're hardcore Street Fighter fans, and we know the lore, and we're obsessed with the lore. I got a bunch of Street Fighter Udon comics. I'm a fan. Okay, I'm a fan of Street Fighter, period. Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, all of them. I may not be the best player, but I have collectibles and shit like that. I'm that type of fan. So most people ain't gonna know who Retsu is. Most people are not gonna know who that is. They're not gonna know who Geki is, Joe, Mike. They don't know Lee. They don't know Gen. They don't know Birdie. They don't know Ego. They don't know Idon. They probably know who Sagat is. And they probably know who Ken is. Sagat and Ken, people know, especially Ken, because Ken is Red Ryu, right? That's what they call him, Red Ryu, right? So, what I'm trying to say is nobody is gonna want to see Street Fighter Alpha or as the first film, especially if you're a developer trying to promote Street Fighter 6. Okay, you're trying to promote Street Fighter 6. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to keep it simple. You're not gonna start from the beginning. You're gonna start from Street Fighter 2, because in Street Fighter 2 is when you get all of the characters that we know and love. Right? Street Fighter 2 is when we get Sagat, we get Bison, we get Ryu, Ken, we get E Honda, Dawson, Guile, and Akuma. All right, these people know these characters. Okay, people know these characters. These are extremely popular characters, known around the world, worldwide. People know who these guys are. And that's what they're going to want to see. If you show them the first Street Fighter Alpha, they're going to be bored, first of all, because it's just Ryu walking around the world, meeting different fighters. And some of them are probably not going to even have their suits on, right? So it was the who's that guy, you know. Um, you finally get to the tournament, and you don't even see the World Warriors, and you're gonna be like, what the hell? All right, so you have to fast forward all the way to Street Fighter 2 in order for you to get any of the famous characters that we know and love. Okay, or at least casuals know and love. So I feel like, the developers, it behooves them to either start in Street Fighter 2 or fast forward all the way to the present time, which is what I think they're going to do. To the present time, and try to see if they can't gather the, how many is it? 6 or the 7? Let me see. It's Ryu, Ken, Guile, Dawson, Bison, Vega, Sagat, Balrog, I don't know, and Blanca, E Honda. Yeah, that's what 10, like 10 characters. Um, gather the 10. So this is what I think should probably happen. Okay, because we got to keep in mind what the devs want. We got to keep in mind the time we have and the amount of film that we have. Quote unquote, because it's probably digital now, so I don't know how they do things now. But my point is, if this was a television series or a Netflix series, it would be better because you could afford to make a slow burn type of deal, more deep cuts. Season 1 would be, if it was up to me, season 1 would be Street Fighter Alpha, right? Like I said, Ryu goes around talking to different fighters. He meets different fighters before eventually, meeting them in a tournament. And everybody's going to be saying, I'll see you in the tournament, or I'll see you in the tournament. Are you going to be in the tournament? Not this time, maybe next time. Some people are not going to know about the tournament. No, what tournament? Sagat, Sagat's, having a tournament, somewhere in Thailand or whatever. Right. And so season 2, that's when you get the first tournament, which you're still not going to get, the fighters that you're not going to get no Akuma. You're not going to get no Guile, Dawson, E Honda, Blanca. None of these guys. That's only until season 3 that you get those guys. So you get what I'm saying, right? That as a television series, it would have been okay. It would have been fine. But as a movie, they can't afford to do that because they need to treat this as a big trailer, a big spectacular trailer for Street Fighter 6. Okay? And what best way to do that but to gather real famous people and warriors from around the world. And where can you find those? In wrestling rings. Because everybody loves wrestling. Wrestling is one of the most popular combative sports in the world. Even though it's fake. Or the outcomes at least are fake. And that's why most of these people that are being casted for the movie are very popular people from around the world. Some of them, not all of them. And popular wrestlers, right? You got yourself a sumo wrestler, you got yourself, or a wrestler from Japan, and wrestlers from the United States, Samoan wrestlers, famous people from Hollywood. You got everybody. So, and that's going to attract people from different areas, different genres and stuff like that. But this is what I think they should do. Okay, getting back to my idea, this is what I think they should do. Okay, I think since we're promoting, Street Fighter 6, they have to make it something like World Tour. And maybe it starts with an interview with your boy Andrew Schultz. And to me, Dan uh Dan has always been, you know, he's always been kind of like a Mr. Satan. But in our real world, who is kind of like Mr. Satan? In my opinion, it's Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is kind of like, the guy who talks shit about everybody and thinks he's the best. He's like, oh, I'm the best or whatever. So I feel like Andrew Schultz should probably channel, some of that aura and some of that attitude that Steven Seagal had, and start talking shit about, these martial artists. Oh, and they should quote him. Like, somebody should say, hey, so who do you think is a good martial artist? Do you think this guy is? He goes, can I laugh in your face? And then, stuff like that, like little quotes like that. And then he should say, I know real street fighters. I know real fighters that can really kick ass. And you know what? I'm going to throw a tournament. I'm going to make a tournament and gather the 10 or something catchy like that. I'm going to gather all of them. I'm going to go around the world, as in a world tour, to try to find all of these guys and bring them together into one big tournament. And that's going to be the whole movie. It's going to be him. We're going to have a tournament for sure, but it's going to be like the last couple of or half of the movie. But most of it is going to be him traveling, trying to look for Chun-Li, trying to look for Ryu, trying to look for Ken. And they're all going to be in their Street Fighter 6 state or era. So, like I said, Ken's going to be in a construction zone, right, trying to hide from the law. Ryu's going to be in Japan, meditating under a tree, right? Akuma, I want to leave him for the end. Let's say you can't find Akuma. You can't find him. He's like, you just can't find Akuma. He's in a cave somewhere. You can't find him, right? Bison, you can't find him either, because people think he's dead, right? He turned into a hobo. He's like, nobody knows where he's at. But let's say you gather everybody else. You gather E Honda. He's working at a restaurant. You're like, hey, man, Dan shows up. It's like, yo, we're doing it one last time. One last hurrah. Let's do it. Right? He gathers everybody. The tournament starts. Boom, bye. You get all the classic shit. Everybody still thinks it's fake because they think all of this stuff is fake. Like, Dan is crazy. He doesn't know. Okay, he got him, but can they really throw fireballs? No, that's fake. So this whole time they're going to be pushing that narrative of it being real, like real life fireballs and shit. And the whole time people are going to be making fun of it, right? Towards the end of the tournament, because Ryo doesn't want to use the Hadouken or whatever, because he feels like he might turn, evil, or it feels like it's a sacred technique or whatever. So he's not going to do it. Everybody is going to be doing his shit. He's not going to do it. Towards the end, when he's winning the tournament, two things are going to happen. Bison is going to show up out of nowhere, right? And he's going to be like, it's me, Bison. Fuck all this. I'm the guy who does the tournaments. He's going to be whooping everybody's ass because he has he has OP power, right? Even in the game, by the way, in World Tour, I still can't beat Bison. Yeah. And the other guy I can't beat is Akuma, So he's beating everybody up or whatever. Ryu finally decides to use his Hadouken, but he turns evil. He turns Satsui no Hado or whatever. He has the red eyes, and then guess who shows up? Akuma. Mm-hmm. Right, Akuma shows up and he knocks the shit out of Ryu. Just sneaks him like he always does. Right. And then it ends right there. It kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And then the whole stadium is destroyed. Everybody's running around or whatever. The cameras are kind of on. And then they're like, it's real. It's all real. Boom, it's over. That's what I think. That's what I think should be the movie. Now I know some of y'all are gonna be like, nah, it's lame or whatever. It's too. But that's gonna be the best way, in my opinion, to promote Street Fighter Six, to get people talking about Street Fighter Six, and for people to start. And it's gonna be fun, guys. That's my thing. Is it's gonna be fun because I'm not like I get the whole deep dive thing. I get the whole wanting to make it more serious. But in my opinion, Street Fighter is best when it dances along the edge of kind of serious but way more funny. And that's why World Tour is so entertaining. It's because it's funny. You get to see Ryu struggling, trying to send messages on the phone. You get to see, the more human side of these characters, the more funny side of these characters. That's what makes Street Fighter a lot more entertaining, in my personal opinion. And of course, the deep dive stuff is still gonna have an opportunity to be there, maybe in a television series or a Netflix series or Apple TV or whatever. We still got a chance for that. But I think for a movie, it's just not convenient. Nobody's gonna wanna watch Street Fighter Alpha except for maybe us. Anyways, that's my opinion, guys.